welcome to the We Geek Together podcast. I am the host, Andrew Ashby, and this is my friend.
The other host, I guess.
Yes, friend and helper, the audio guy.
I've been on most of the episodes at this point.
His name is Spencer.
Oh yeah, I'm Spencer. I run this show, I guess.
He does. And today we are going to be talking about how to get your business up and running, because we've been building our own business, and I definitely have thoughts and opinions. But before we do, we have our before show drinks, where we just talk about what's new in our life. We have the main course, where we're going to talk about the topic. Then we have the shot of the day, where we're going to talk about whatever's interesting in the nerd space. And then lastly, we'll have our final call for drinks.
One thing that we didn't talk about last time, even though the whole time we were just like slurping on these drinks, is you guys got your mead.
Mead is on tap,
which is an exciting milestone. We've kind of been talking about it for a while.
So that's for me. That's what's new, what's exciting for us. We finally have mead on tap. We have an ice machine, and we usually have 4 flavors: root beer, raspberry, apple, and vanilla. And it's been so popular, we've already sold out of root beer raspberry.
Really?
And my brewer is working quickly on getting us more. So
that's exciting.
Yeah, next time you gotta try the root beer, because it's so good.
I haven't had the root beer and I haven't had the raspberry, so I'm excited to try both of those. But do you find that like people are more down to like get a drink and then come back and get it refilled and stuff as they're like in the tavern,
like,
more so than like buying one of these, for example?
Oh yeah, no, people love it, and it looks like a beer. Like,
yeah.
now that the foam has settled on these, you can kind of see, well, if you're watching the video, you can see that there's like a lot of bubbles, but when you're filling it up, it straight up just looks like a beer from a tap. So it's really cool, kind of atmospheric to get some mead on tap.
Now we just need some wenches and like you know am I allowed to say wenches on the podcast?
Yeah, you can say wenches.
But like
it's a seedy tavern. We need the guy sitting in the corner with the hood up and the really drunk hobbit and stuff like that.
Have you seen those videos from like Oktoberfest where you've got those people with just like arms full of mugs that are going across? Yeah. We need somebody who can do that.
Yeah.
See if we can train Dom or something.
Everett. Yeah.
Everett would look really good in one of those tavern wench outfits.
We only have. Oh my goodness. All right. So that's what's new. That's what's kind of new. The preliminary, the before show drinks. So let's get into today's topic, which is how to start your business. And I was inspired by this because yesterday at Evermore, somebody came up to me and they were like, since I was a kid, I've always wanted to open up a game store. And I have seen what you are doing, and it has been inspiring. And so I am trying to take my next steps.
That's nice.
That was really flattering. That was super nice of them. And so I'm definitely not a beacon or an example. Please do not go off of me. But I absolutely am like a homegrown, self-made business, or at least the gaming tavern is. And so I really have some ideas of what's worked well and what hasn't for us. And so not that I'm a master of business. I dropped out of college, so like I don't even have any professional training, but I do definitely have some insights on what is good business, what's a good way to start, and that kind of stuff. So I'll say a thing, and then if you have any thoughts, you can go into that.
Sure.
But I think one of the starting points, because a lot of people are like, man, I want to start my own business, maybe like a game store, for example. What you need to figure out is something I heard a long time ago called your minimum viable product. So let's say you want to start a restaurant, okay? Instead of like getting out a business loan and setting up a whole space, buying all this equipment, hiring all this staff on a huge risk, instead, learn how to bake a really nice dessert or a main dish? What's your minimum viable product? What is the smallest version of your business that you can start doing right now at home? Okay, so a restaurant, I can start making desserts at home, and I can start bringing them to bake sales, sharing them with friends, and working on that recipe. The idea behind the minimum viable product is start doing it now. And a lot of people get analysis paralysis, or they dive way too deep and they are way over their head, and there's so many things that they're trying to learn at the same time. And this is what it started with us. Everett just made leather armor, and I made a card game. And that was the start of our business. And we started selling at a farmer's market. And we got into Evermore's crafting market. But it was like, that was the minimum. We didn't sell cloaks. We didn't sell dice. We weren't a game store. I just made cards, and he made leather armor. And that was the start of our business. And we very slowly growed it from there. If you were doing a restaurant, you start working on your menu. You turn your kitchen into a home kitchen business license, and then you start selling your stuff door to door, and you start getting some regular customers and that kind of stuff. Any thoughts on minimum viable?
Yeah, I love this concept so much. So I haven't started a store like you guys have, but the industry that I'm going to be going into, or I'm currently, trying to get into, is the audio production, specifically music production. You might not be able to tell it from this podcast, but
he does all the sound.
Yeah, but ideally, in a perfect world, I'm a music producer.
That would be awesome.
And I'm like reaching out to local bands and like trying to find people to work with. But when I first got into audio, I didn't really know what to do, and there's not really like a clear path from like somebody who's passionate about music to music producer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I jumped in and I started dipping my toes in a lot of things. At the time, it was kind of like I got into audio just before the pandemic. And during COVID, everybody kind of decided that they wanted to start a podcast. It was like this new craze sweeping the nation.
Yeah.
And my father-in-law was one of those people. And so I was like, well, I kind of know how to do this stuff. I've never done it before, but I'll just start doing it. And then from there, I learned a lot of skills. Now I've worked on a lot of different podcasts, but I've also started working at a music studio and started working with groups and started learning how that whole process works. I've started working on short films, doing sound for those. And so I'm like a boom operator and sound mixer, and I've started doing a lot of live sound where I'll show up to events and be the guy in charge of making it sound good. You know what I mean?
But those are really small steps on top of each other where you're learning more and more skills and getting more and more connections.
And the important first step, which I heard you say, and I've said before, and I love it, is just do something.
Yeah.
And in fact, this podcast started because I was like, Andy, look, we can talk about this cool idea for a podcast forever and make plans and just never end up getting to it.
Let's just do it.
And let's just start. And anyone who's been following the podcast for a while or who cares to go back will notice that when we first started, there was no video. It was just medium audio. In the first episode, I went back and actually listened to our episodes again recently. In our first episode, you do not come off that strong. You're just hey, this is a podcast episode that we're doing. It was nothing then. It was just a test. It was is this even a possible thing? But it's because I was we got to take this first step. And then every couple episodes, we add a little bit more production value and a little bit more, some video, some lights, some cool stuff. And and our product is getting slowly better. Mm-hmm. But we would still just be getting together every couple of weeks. What would be cool if we did a podcast?
Yeah.
Unless we got that motivation, that impetus to just start it.
And that's where a lot of people, that's right there where a lot of dreamers stop. Is man, it would be really cool to have my own restaurant or my bakery or my game store or my website or whatever. And it's always a dream. It's always a cool idea. But getting that first step in is hard. And so the easier you make that first step for you, the more likely you're going to do it. So instead of starting a whole restaurant, just bake some bread. Instead of starting a whole game store, just start hosting game nights. Instead of being the audio producer for Post Malone, just start recording podcasts for whoever you can until you build the skill set, the knowledge, the tool base, so you can. So minimum viable product, I think, is one of the first ways to start.
I don't know if everybody's like this, but when I have little successes with that minimum product and start expanding on it, it's so exciting.
Yeah, it really is.
Like the way we're putting together this room, even though it's like very much still a work in progress.
You're only seeing a corner of the room.
Yeah. We can't even bring ourselves to turn the camera around.
No, we're not.
So you can
Never
see
turn the camera around.
But it's just exciting to I don't know, it's not a professional quality production, but
definitely not.
I think it looks nice and sounds pretty good, and
we're getting
and
better.
That feels good. And
I'm sounding more energetic because I've learned.
You believe that this is a thing that can happen. And I agree.
Yeah, your desserts will get better. Anyway, so minimum viable product. Taking your first steps. Okay? So that's the first thing. After you're able to take your first steps, you're going to learn a lot. Okay? If you start doing farmers markets, I think farmers markets and if you're selling a physical product, farmers markets or Renaissance fairs, conventions, events, makers markets, events where you see other people's products. It is such a brutal landscape because you'll set up your table and you've put your heart and soul into all this stuff, and you will see other people who are just outperforming you. You'll see the person who makes honey and they're just killing it with honey. And you're like, oh man, should I start keeping bees? The answer is no. But it's tough. It's tough, especially when you're brand new and you're stepping into this world and you're seeing so many other people who are doing it and they're doing it better and they have more experience, they have a better product than you, they have a nicer display. But if you can swallow your pride for a bit and you can look around and see what people are actually doing and what customers are actually looking at and how they're getting interacted with, that's some of the best places to learn how to improve yourself. So maybe you don't get into honey, but maybe along with your stuff, you start selling honey spoons. Spoons specific, there's spoons specifically for honey. I just discovered this the other day. Are you talking
about the little I'm imagining the Honey Nut Cheerios guy with
with all the little lines in it to capture the honey. And so if you're a wood engraving business, okay, maybe I partner with the other person, and that's something else I'll talk about in a bit. But and you probably do this as sound, because you probably rub shoulders with other sound technicians, and you'll see how they wrap their cables and how they do that kind of stuff. And you probably worked with some people who are much higher caliber than you, and they have way better stuff than you.
Absolutely. And in fact, this is just an extension of the last point, right? Where you start doing it, and as you start doing it, you meet people who can act as mentors and allies and friends and partners, you know what I mean? And then you learn from those people. Sometimes you work with those people. I took an internship at a production company a couple summers back, knowing almost nothing about live sound or anything audio, realistically, other than a handful of classes that I had taken. Mm-hmm. But there I met a guy who was working with someone else who owns a different company who hires freelance workers. And so I started freelancing with him. And as I'm doing that, I'm learning, how to set stuff up and how to run shows and how to do whatever, and meeting other people who have given me other jobs. And then this podcasting stuff, I meet more people through that. And it's just there's a word in business that's kind of a buzzword that I feel like people really don't like because it kind of does suck. And the word is networking. And it's one of those things, especially as creatives, who just hate it. People who are kind of introverted, people who don't talking with strangers or whatever. The word networking sucks.
Yeah.
But the actual concept of it can kind of just be broken down to interacting with people, being likable, being friendly,
Being personable.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then you like meet these people and develop friendships with them, and they all lead to more business opportunities potentially.
Yeah. More friends, business opportunities, more doors that open to you. And so some people view it networking as like a resource, like I gotta farm it and I gotta hunt it.
It's insincere, where you're not developing real relationships with people. You're just using them for what they can offer you.
And that's not the good way to do networking. I agree. It's building relationship, being a nice person, being a good person that you can talk with people, you can have fun, and you can be sincere. That does a lot of networking right there, because there's a lot of crappy people out there, and nobody likes dealing with them.
In a way, even like you and I kind of networked with each other, right? Like we worked together, just like some random, restaurant, and then we developed a friendship, and now we've both gone our separate ways, but we're still working together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I love working with you.
And it's always fun to get together and talk about, like, well, how can we do this? Or, what kind of thing can we expand into that way? Or, different things like that. And those are all ways of expanding your network through the people that you meet, and just, like, using the relationships that you have. Not in a selfish, like, I don't know, trying to get ahead kind of way, but in just, like, that's just how the world kind of works.
Yeah, as you grow, you will meet other people, and they'll be growing too in their own little way. And that leads into the other thing that I want to talk about, is you do not have competition. And this is something that is really guttural, really primal for us to see. So if I see somebody else at the Renaissance Fair also selling leather armor, or if you're doing your baking thing and you see another person who's doing their baking thing, it is very easy to view them as competition and an enemy. And in reality, that just hurts you more than it hurts them, way more than it hurts them. It just closes doors for you. And this is something that I still have to deal with, because I still do events and conventions, and I'll see somebody where their booth is just amazing, and they are pulling in all these customers, and it's very easy for me to think like, well, there goes all the money to them. And I want to try to be better than them, and curse them for their good luck, their good fortune. They got a better spot at the convention than me. If I was in their spot, then I would be doing better. Or if I was better looking, or if I had bigger boobs, whatever the excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all right, I don't know about
true.
that one.
No, but it's like, was it you that I heard this from, or was it from somebody else who called the relationship between two different companies in like the same sphere? They said that those companies have co-opetition.
Co-opetition. Not me, but I love that word.
It's another word that sounds kind of like a business buzzword a little bit,
yeah.
but whatever. That's kind of the conversation we're having here.
Yeah.
But it's like, we're both selling things in the same market that people might want to
the same
buy.
customers.
Yeah. But realistically, if we work together, we can both make more money.
Benefit.
Somehow.
It's the idea of rising tides raises all ships.
Yeah. Or like, what was I going to say about that? It's like you're, if you view this as a negative thing, it's like looking at the potential for profits for everyone as like a finite resource.
Yes.
Like there's only so much money that can be spent. And if I want my piece of that, then I gotta, push everybody around. Yeah, I gotta be the first one there.
I gotta sabotage
exactly.
them. Yeah.
And that's just not really how it has to be. Mm-mm. Because, there's an abundance of money to be spent on hobbies, or on, maybe that kind of comes across bad because a lot of people are having a hard time.
Right now.
That's like,
yeah. But that's the mentality you should have of abundance.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Well said. The mindset of abundance. If you are thinking it's a finite resource and yeah, you have to fight for it. That's a pretty bad mentality. The person who you are competing against is yourself. How to get better. And that's another thing. If you have a competitor and you're trying to outdo them, all you're doing is thinking about how to be better than them instead of how can I improve. There's so many different aspects of this business that I can be doing better as a game store owner. But if I focus on what the other game store is doing, wow, they have more people who show up for Magic the Gathering. I need to do better at Magic the Gathering. I need to get posters out, and I need to have better prizes and stuff like that.
I need to go to their store and snipe their customers.
And yeah, find whoever's the people playing there and incentivize them to come to my store. Maybe I need to focus on TTRPGs or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or maybe I just need to clean up my bathroom and my store so people like coming in.
Or maybe you do Magic events, but it's not the same. Like you go to that other store for the competitive stuff or some third store for Commander, but you come here because we do really cool whatever.
Janky unglued sets or
whatever.
Yeah. So like the more you focus on your competition, the narrower your view gets. Now I'm not saying be blind to everything around you. You should always be paying attention to what other people are doing, and you should be learning from them and adapting yourself, but never get into the mindset of like, I need to be outdoing this person or this person sucks because they're outdoing me, because that's where it gets toxic.
One thing that I've always liked about Geek Together and your guys' brand and store and everything is it never felt like you guys were ever like, okay, what does this look like and how do we do that? You know what I mean? You didn't approach opening a game store by going to the game stores and being like, how can we make our game store look like those game stores? You just said, this is kind of this idea that we have. We want to do our thing, and it's going to look like we want it to look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, and in a way, sure, that is competing with all these other stores, but because you're not that store, you're not doing exactly what that store does, it's opened up some really cool opportunities for you in the stores in this area and just sort of around to work together with people, because you're not like looking at it like that, where you're like, okay, we are them and they are us, but we have to be better than them.
Yeah. Thank you. That was very nice.
You're welcome.
So instead, view your people who are doing similar things in your space. View them as opportunities to hopefully collaborate with, okay? Because if they're sharing the same market space as you, not only can you learn and they can be kind of a mentor or at least a study buddy, somebody who you grow with, you can also do things together and have your own unique different brands. I've always wanted to work with all the other local game stores and do a quest, like a pilgrimage, where you have to visit all the game stores in Utah and you get a stamp at each one, and that sounds like super fun.
That'd be super awesome.
And there's a game store in the Southtown Mall. No, I'm the Southtown Mall. There's a game store called Level 1 Gamers, and they opened up just after than us, and I adore the owners, and we've done some cross-collaboration. Just very minor stuff, but like just the other day, they saw what we were doing with the food drive, how we're doing a food drive in the store, and they're like, hey, can we do that? Because that sounds awesome. And I love being able to talk with them and not feel like we're competing against each other, but instead we're both game store owners trying to figure things out, and we can share notes and we can compare notes, and that's such a more relaxing and healthy mental space to be than always looking for my enemies and how they're going to stab me in the back.
I'm not sure if this is the direction that you're going with this, but in my industry, I talked about how I kind of like tried out a lot of different things, and that helped me meet a lot of different people in a lot of different disciplines, right?
Yeah.
So I have a couple of friends who I know are kind of like the go-to guys for film post-production stuff. Or I've got a guy who's really passionate about video game sound and different things like this. And because we have a good relationship with each other, we are able to then know what the other person is good at,
Yeah.
and then funnel people towards them. And so I have had people who are like, hey, I'm working on this film. Will you do sound for me? I'll say, I personally can't, but I actually have a guy who is actually way better than,
that's
than I
awesome.
am. So
Yeah.
go to him. And he's come to me and said, hey, I've got a buddy who is trying to record some music. Do you want to work with this guy? And so it's like you were saying earlier, it's literally the rising tide here where we're all trying to develop work. We're finding work in lots of different areas, but because we only want to do what we want to do, or because we only allocate our time and resources a certain way, we know who we can reassign those resources to. And I'm not sure if you found a similar thing in gaming where people will come in, you're like, well, we're not really the X
This
store,
thing.
but
Well, again, with Level 1 Gamers, they're way closer to Salt Lake City, and so I've got people who are like, man, if only there was a cool game store in Salt Lake City like this. I'm like, well, have you heard of Level 1 Gamers? And I know for sure that they've talked about us. Oh, hey, are you down in Provo? Have you checked out We Geek Together? And those, like, what a selfless thing to do, but also, like, just because we have those relationships, I'm going to get more customers because of that. And they're going to get more customers instead of us just competing against each other.
Yeah.
That's another. I didn't even think about that. All right, so our video and microphones died. Boy, we were talking about problem solving and small steps to grow. And yeah, our video and microphones died. So we realized after recording the entire episode.
it's really a bummer because like the conversation was really
We
good.
had a great conversation.
So you'll have to take our word for it on that. But it's interesting that this is kind of an example of what we were talking about.
Yeah, there's so many problems that are going to come up, and so it's better to grow small instead of diving into the deep end and trying to learn how to swim all at the same time. And that's kind of the final piece of knowledge is like, there's people who suddenly go viral and their business just it skyrockets. Somebody on TikTok who they sell hats with a butt on it, and he's now had 100,000 orders, he said. But and that's kind of a dream. A lot of people are like, man, if I just have that one viral TikTok or something, my business will take off. But what that guy now has to figure out is shipping, manufacturing, staffing, taxes, payroll, warehousing. He has to figure out all of this crap at such a large scale now, and he has to figure it out really, really fast. And if he can't deliver on that product, it's going to make a lot of people not happy with his business and his brand.
It could end up doing more damage than good.
Yeah, it could absolutely kill his business. The inventor of Lovesack, which, by the way, I guess the company almost died recently.
Really?
But, yeah, he talked to us about how his big deal, his big first, like, $10,000 order or something where this company bought, like, 1,000 Lovesacks from his warehouse. He talked about how stressful and how much work he had to put in to make those 1,000 Lovesacks. And by the end of all that work, he didn't make a penny's worth of profit.
Wow.
Because he had to put in and grow suddenly for that huge order. And in the end, like, selling 1,000 Lovesacks was so stressful and
expensive.
And he didn't know about that. And that's the thing about growing your business too quickly. You can easily get way over your head and way out of your league. And if you don't grow slowly, the brick by brick, and you're putting in the fundamental things, it can kill you. And then that can absolutely kill you.
Whereas on the other side the other side of the coin, I guess, if you just sort of like take each problem in stride, sort of slowly but surely, you can just be like, okay, well, we were recording and our power source went out, and so all of our devices died. How do we solve that? How do we make it so that doesn't happen next time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then now all of a sudden our podcast or our small business or our, insert thing here is that much better because we overcame a small inconvenience.
Problem. Yeah.
And then those small inconveniences just kind of stack up until now all of a sudden you're solving big problems and moving on and
But it's possible. And
Yeah.
it's easy. And it's profitable.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a world record game where we had 1,000 people, and that was a little bit diving in over my head. That was a lot of work, and I lost money on that. But it was only 1,000 people, which it wasn't like FanX levels where it's like 50,000 people. Okay, imagine if 50,000 people showed up. It would have been an absolute nightmare. And so I was able to do 1,000 people, and so now next year I'm going to do 3,000 people. And now my goal is to be profitable. And then 2 years from now, it'll be 5,000 people, 10,000 people. Slow, steady growth is better. And so when people ask me like, wow, you've done so much in a year. Like your game store has done so amazing in a year. I've actually like technically been in business for 3 years. But I've been in this business since I was a teenager because I've been going to game stores. I've been filming silly YouTube videos since I was a teenager, a kid. And so all the skill sets that I've learned have applied to this. And this is just what years and years and years and years of work, being 9 years at a fast food restaurant, years and years and years of work have now got me to where I am. But that's all we see. We see people at the height of their success. We see Taylor Swift, who's just killing it right now. But, like, how much work has she put in for how long to finally get where she's at? So, yeah.
The paradoxical part about all this is, in a way, it could sound like we're saying, hey, don't bite off more than you can chew, right? Like, don't go viral. Don't, like, explode your business all at once because it could adversely be a bad thing. But also, we're saying, first of all, we're not saying, don't be afraid of that kind of thing. If you go viral and blow up,
for you.
Yeah, congratulations. We're really happy for you.
That's awesome.
But the thing about it is, we're acknowledging the negative sides of that,
yeah,
while also kind of saying, set your sights a little bit above what you think you can handle, right?
Yeah.
Like, make big goals. Try to set a world record. Do something that's a little bit scary, a little bit outside of your comfort zone, because that's how you're going to be able to grow and encounter those things that you didn't even know to think of before, but now you do because you just had to solve it on the spot, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, keep on taking the next step.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep on pushing those bounds a little. You know, after you make 100 videos, one of those might go viral.
Yeah.
But it's going to take 100 videos, so yeah. All right, quick shot of the day. We've got some amazing people that we're lining up for the Dead Wars. I can't guarantee these people right now because we are going to be in talks. But One Shot Questers, he's a YouTuber with 700,000 followers. Critical Hit Dice, they're a really fun TikToker. Dragon Steel, Brandon Sanderson's book company as well. I'm really hoping for the Dead Wars 2024 to have some really cool big names in the TTRPG space to make this event a really cool event.
And none of these are like people who've committed. You're just saying like,
we're talking with them.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
we'll try to...
I can't confirm anybody yet, but I'm super excited, and it's such a cool opportunity to actually talk to these people.
Yeah, that's cool.
So,
well, follow us on social media.
Yeah, we're on social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. All that good stuff. I put out a YouTube video about destroying your Magic the Gathering cards so thieves won't steal it, and I'm posting a follow-up why, seriously, for real, you should destroy your Magic cards. But there's a big asterisk there of when you shouldn't. But yeah, we post very regularly. This podcast you can find on podcast platforms and YouTube. And Spencer, thanks for being here and recording this final again.
You're welcome.
You have now been thanked a few times today.
It was even better the second time.
It was. And thank you everyone for who watched. Thank you. Bye.